In the Renaissance corridors of her luxurious mansion, Charlotte Adulyadej stood before a gilded mirror adjusting the sleek fabric of her designer gown. Her every movement, deliberate and graceful, echoed the elegance that defined her. The soft lightning from crystal chandeliers reflected off the polished marble floors, casting a glow that perfectly matched her poisoned demeanor. She was ready for the evening, an exclusive event that she had meticulously planned to perfection. Nothing could go wrong. Suddenly, her phone buzzed, disrupting the stillness of the room. Hello, Tool. Charlotte answered, her voice calm yet slightly impatient.
On the other side of the line, her friend's voice burst through with a tone of excitement. Dad, you know what today is? Charlotte, with a smile turning in the corner of her lips, leaned back against the mirror, the gleam of confidence still evident in her eyes. I know. The one and only Mr. Tone hosting a party again, but Tool, in her usual energetic fashion, laughed loudly. No, Char, it's not that. Today, Thailand's best fortune teller, Miss Antakran, is coming. The mansion of a fortune teller made Charlotte roll her eyes. Amusement clear. She knew Tool had always been a bit too enthralled by such things, but Charlotte didn't believe in fortune or fate. She believed in control and perfection.
I know, she replied with a sigh, her tone bordering on boredom. There was a brief pause on the other end. Before Tool voice, now with impatient, broke through. Char, I'm kneeling over here. Please come first. Charlotte could not suppress a smile. Though her eyes remained sharp, focused, she had more important things to do than visit a so-called fortune teller. But she didn't want to disappoint Tool. Okay, I'm coming, she said, already turning down toward the door. She placed her phone down, her mind already racing toward the evening ahead. Her feet light with the promise of yet another night of perfectly executed plans. But before leaving, she caught a glimpse of herself in the mirror. Reflection staring back at her was a woman who had mastered every aspect of her life: beauty, wealth, power, control. There was no more room for fat, no place for unpredictability in her careful scrubbed world. With a confident flick of her wrist, she fixed a looser strand of hair. Nothing can change my fate, she whispered to herself, a mantra that had kept her grounded all these years. I was born with perfection. She took a final glance at her reflection, satisfied. She stepped out of her room, ready to face the night. Whatever came next, she would handle it, just as she always did, perfectly. Oh my goodness, finally you have come. Tool's voice echoed with excitement as Charlotte stepped into the room. Tool, Charlotte's trusted friend from college, had been eagerly waiting for this moment. Her eyes sparkled as she greeted Charlotte, the anticipation in her expression obvious. Charlotte, still adjusting the elegant folds of her gown, barely contained her amusement. She was not one to entertain such things, but for Tool, she would play along. Murmured in acknowledgement, her voice cool and measured as always. I think we should go now, Charlotte suggested, her gaze already shifting toward the fortune teller's booth. Tool beamed, practically bouncing on her heels, delighted at Charlotte compiles. Finally, let's see what Miss Antakran has in store for us, she replied, a voice full of energy. The two women walked together, their heels clicking softly on the marble floor, moving toward the dimly lit room where the renowned fortune teller Miss Antakran waited. As they entered, the atmosphere shifted and Charlotte felt a slight shiver crawl down her spine. The room was bathed in a soft, mystical purple glow, with delicate lavender light reflecting off the walls, casting an ethereal way over everything. The air was thick with incense, adding an exotic scent that was almost in the center of the room, sat Miss Antakran, her presence commanding and serene. The fortune teller's eyes closed as if in deep meditation. Her long, dark robes added to the mystique that surrounded her. Hello, Miss Antakran, Tool said, her voice filled with wonder. As she approached the fortune teller's desk with a flourish, she took a seat directly in front of her, her eyes eager with curiosity. Charlotte, standing slightly behind, watched with mild interest. She didn't truly believe in this, but Tool's enthusiasm was infectious. Can you tell me my prophecy? Tool asked, her voice bubbling with excitement. She leaned forward, Take the edge of her seat. Miss Antakaran slowly opened her eyes, intensity of her gaze, sketching pools of God. She was a woman who carried years of wisdom in her eyes, and there was something undeniable hovering about her with a small, knowing smile. She reached for a deck of cards on the table. The edge warm and well traveled. Take one card. The fortune teller struck her voice low and hypertonic. Poole's hands trembled slightly as she reached forward, her fingers brushing against the desk. Charlotte observed her, the glint of curiosity hidden behind her poison exterior. Poole, with her usual flair, selected a card and handed it to Miss Antakaran, her eyes wide with anticipation. With deliberate slowness, Miss Antakaran turned the card over, her fingers lingering on its edge as if it held the weight of the wood. This card, she began, her voice soft yet unyielding, reveals not just your future, but the unseen forces that have always shaped your path. To leaned in, hanging on to every word. The fortune teller's voice deepened, becoming more mysterious with each syllable, and Charlotte found herself unconsciously stepping closer, into it despite herself. The words that followed were cryptic, an intricate dance of symbolism and mystery that seemed to echo through the room. Poole's expression shifted between the confusion and awe, as if she could not fully understand the gravity of what she was hearing, but was undeniably mesmerized by it. Charlotte, watching intently, felt an odd sensation in the pit of her stomach. The air seemed to hum with energy, and for a brief moment, the perfect world she had built for herself seemed uncertain. But just as quickly, she shook the thought away, focusing on Poole's eager face. She had come here for fun, for the thrill of the unknown. No fortune teller's words would change her fate, would they? Charlotte was lost in her thoughts, her mind swirling with the cryptic words of Miss Antakaran. Char, I think you should also try. Poole's voice broke through the Charlotte's reverie, pulling her back into the present. Charlotte blinked, her gaze slowly shifting toward Poole, who was still seated eagerly in front of the fortune teller. With a sigh, Charlotte shook her head, her perfect poise returning. You know, Poole, I don't believe in all this. I'm perfectly capable of making my own, she said confidently, her voice carrying that familiar, unwavering self-assurance. Poole leaned forward, her eyes filled with excitement, her hands twitching in anticipation. But sir, you never know. It could be fun. Just a little peek in the future. Charlotte was not convinced. I don't need a peek, she replied firmly, glancing at Miss Antakaran, who was watching them intently. I know where I am headed. I create my own destiny. Before Charlotte could say more, Miss Antakaran's voice sliced through the air, smooth yet sharp, cutting her off. Nobody in this world creates their own path, my darling. She spoke with an air of authority that made Charlotte pause, her words hanging in the air like a spell. Everyone has their own destiny. Charlotte's heart tightened, but she quickly composed herself. She was not like everyone else. She had always been the exception, the one who controlled her life with precision. But I'm not ordinary, she replied, her voice steady but with a hint of defensive. I am an exception. I am perfect in every way. The fortune teller didn't flinch. Instead, her smile deepened, eyes glinting with a knowing that unsettled Charlotte. Then why are you afraid to know your future? Miss Antakaran's words were sharp but cutting, and they seemed to pierce Charlotte's carefully constructed armor. Charlotte stiffened, her jaw setting in defense. I'm not afraid of anyone, she retorted, her eyes flashing with a mix of pride and annoyance. A moment passed in tense silence before Charlotte finally relented, the need to prove herself stronger than her reluctance. Fine, I will play your game, she said, stepping forward. She slid into the seat in front of Miss Antakaran with calculated elegance, fingers brushing the deck of cards. The fortune teller's gaze never left her, a faint smile tugging at her lip. Charlotte picked a card from the deck and handed it over with a cool air of nonchalance. Miss Antakaran accepted the card, her fingers moving with practiced ease as she turned it over. The Emperor, Miss Antakaran announced, her voice low and deliberate. This card reveals a life lived by your own rules, a person who seeks power, control, and perfection. Charlotte's eyes dimmed slightly, a brief flicker of doubting coursing across her face. Yes. She said quickly, her voice betraying a flicker of something deeper. Miss Antakan's gaze softened, but there was a knowing spark in her eyes. Choose another card. She murmured, the request almost casual, as though she already knew what would unfold. With a slight shrug, Charlotte picked another card, her fingers brushing over its surface with a hint of impatience. She handed it to Miss Antakra, who studied it intently before revealing the truth. You live your life as a perfectionist, Miss Antakran continued, her voice more measured now, as though she was speaking directly to Charlotte's very soul. You dream of marrying the perfect person, someone who matches you in every way. But in your destiny, you will love someone who is your opposite, someone who is kind to those who are innocent, but devilish to those who are not. The words rang out like a bell, and Charlotte's heart skipped a beat. Her perfect world, her perfect vision of life was beginning to crack, and she didn't like it. But Miss Antakran's wasn't done. This person will change your view of perfection. She added, her voice laced with gravity. Charlotte's eyes narrowed, disbelief and frustration welling up inside her. Whatever, she muttered, rolling her eyes in annoyance. The idea that someone could alter her carefully constructed reality was laughable. But Miss Antakran wasn't finished. She paused, drawing out the next revelation. This person will be someone from your past. She said softly, her words slicing through the air like a blade. Someone you haven't spoken into a long time. This person will not be the perfect man you have always dreamed of, but a woman. A woman who is tall, kind, and yet there is a darkness within. Charlotte froze, the blood running from her face. Her breath caught in her throat. How dare you? She spat. Her voice shook with fury. A woman? You think I'll partner with a woman? I have always had everything I have ever wanted, and I will marry a handsome man, someone perfect just like me. In that moment, the perfect world she had built, the world where everything was controlled and flawless, began to crumble around her. She stood up abruptly, her voice flushed with anger. This is absurd, she hissed, standing on her heels, storming out of the room, her heels clicking furiously against the floor. Tool, who had been watching in stunned silence, rushed to Miss Antakran's side, her expression apologetic. I'm so sorry, Miss Antakran, she said quickly, her voice filled with embarrassment. Please may mercy be shown to us. She glanced nervously at the door where Charlotte had just disappeared, then hurried to follow. As the door closed behind them, the fortune teller murmured under her breath, her voice barely a whisper, My dear, your time has just begun. Charlotte stood beside her sleek black car, her fingers clenched tightly around the door handle. Her breath came out in short, controlled bursts as fury simmered just beneath the surface. The evening had been an unsettling mixture of frustration and confusion. She was still reeling from the strange encounter with Miss Antakran. How dare the fortune teller speak of destiny, of love, and of a future, of love and of a future so completely foreign to the life Charlotte had so meticulously crafted. Her thoughts were abruptly interrupted as her phone buzzed in her hand. She glanced down, seeing an unknown number flashing on the screen. With a sigh of annoyance, she pressed answer without a second thought. Hello, she snapped, her voice tied with irritation. A calm, collected voice responded on the other end. Hello, Charlotte. She froze. That voice. It was a voice she had not heard in 14 years. A voice she had tried to forget. Who is this? She demanded, her mind racing with a mix of disbelief and old memories. The voice responded, Charlotte, this is Asher. Asher Chaturaphak, your classmate from primary school, the one involved with your cheating case. Her heart skipped a bit. Anger that had been boiling inside her suddenly froze, replaced by a strange, unsettling feeling deep within her chest. Asher, she muttered, her name, the name rolling off her tongue with a faint sense of nostalgia and unease. Asher's voice remained calm, despite the tension that hung in the air. Don't blame yourself, Asher. I have known the truth for a long time, Charles said in a calm voice. A part of her wanted to snap back to dismiss the conversation as something long in the past. But another part of her couldn't deny the connection that had once existed between them. It's good that you know the truth, Asher said, her voice softer, now more measured. Asher continued, her voice steady. So, how are you? Charlotte was silent for a moment, staring at the beaming skyline. The city around her burst with life, but her mind was elsewhere. I am fine, she replied curtly, trying to mask the swirl of emotion rising within her. Char, can I meet you? The question caught her off guard. She hadn't expected her to ask that after all this year. Why now? Yes, she replied, though the answer felt almost mechanical. But where are you? Asher's voice came through with a slight chuckle, though it felt oddly distant. Okay, tomorrow morning I will send you the location. Charlotte's curiosity piqued, but she couldn't help the feeling of unease that settled in her chest. Wait, she said, her words sharp. You were in Bangkok? Yes, came the answer, calm and quiet. The line went silent for a bit, and before Charlotte could say another word, the call ended. The phone went silent in her hand, but her heart beat wildly. The rapid thumping reverberating in her chest as though something was stirring inside her. She looked down at the phone in her hand, her fingers trembling slightly as she stared at the screen. As the call cut off, the silence around her seemed deafening. Her mind raced, replaying the conversation, trying to piece together a fragment of the past that had suddenly resurfaced. Why now? After 14 years? She whispered to herself, her voice barely audible. Her eyes clouded with confusion. She clenched her fist around the phone, trying to control the sudden flood of memories that threatened to overwhelm her. But as her thoughts continued to spiral on, one memory lingered, unshakable. A memory that felt both distant and painful close. Voice of Miss Antakra and the fortune teller echoed in her mind like a haunting whisper. This person will be someone from your past. Charlotte's breath caught in her thought.